Start our meeting. The time is 6 p.m. exactly. So I'm going to call the meeting to order. Pledge of Allegiance. Letty, you want to do the Pledge of Allegiance? Roll call. So we'll go ahead and Lorraine? Letty? Here. Anthony?
Here.
Rosemary? Here. Dave? Here. Do I have to do it?
No.
Okay. Oh,
Not towards quorum.
okay. So we do have a quorum. Everybody's here. Uh, Danny's gonna be missing. He was gonna come. I spoke to him today, maybe not even an hour ago. But his wife called and said that he was just too ill. Public comments. This is an opportunity for the members of the public. This includes those on Zoom to address the board on any matter related to the commission that is not listed on the agenda. Comments will be limited to no more than 3 minutes. Do we have anybody in the public that would wish to make a comment? Anybody online? Seeing as there's none, we'll move on to 5, potential conflict of interest. Any board member who has a potential conflict of interest may now identify the item and recuse themselves from discussing and voting on the matter. Seeing as there's none. 6, additions to the agenda. The board may add an item to the agenda if upon a 2/3 vote, the board feels that there is a need for immediate action on the matter and the need came from the attention of the board after posting this agenda. Do we have anybody that wants to add?
Pardon me. I was looking through the bylaws. I could not find where, and I know that with other boards that I'm on, that you missed 3 consecutive meetings, you're off the board. Okay, Mr. Shemian has not been here.
Recording in progress.
Mr. Shemian has not been here since what? Physically been here since about December, November, somewhere like that.
Right.
Okay, he came on a Zoom the last meeting. So where does that stand?
So where it stands is that with respect to his attendance, and I don't have the benefit of having exactly being able to track his attendance in front of me, and I would defer to when I weigh in, but what I can tell you is that the way the law works is that if someone's seat is vacant, they continue to, for example, if they've missed too many meetings, they continue to serve until appointment by the Board of Supervisors or an election. They're not automatically removed per se. They serve until replacement. And as far as their qualifications, I just don't recall by statute. And I know you and I had talked about that. Do you recall exactly what we concluded on?
Resolution the board needs to pass. I also think that your interpretation of the statute.
Are you with your microphone?
Yeah, where should I start? So we have talked about this. Ken and I discussed this a month or so ago, and it appears that there needs to be a resolution of vacancy that this board adopts to start that process. But I also think that Ken's interpretation of the statute allowed some sort of generous interpretation. It wasn't automatic, but there had to be a process started by the board to initiate that.
Okay, because I know prior to me coming on board, there was a member that dropped out and the board itself appointed somebody.
It can, under the,
Because that's what I was reading in the bylaws.
it can, under the Uniform District Election Law, the board can do that. But the issue that, and I apologize, I'm just trying to look up our communication. But I think the issue was that I believe that there, let me just. Yeah, it was Health and Safety Code Section 32100.2. So there, you have to miss the requisite number of meetings and the board must pass a resolution declaring that a vacancy exists. And because my understanding at the last meeting, Mr. Seremian was included as for the quorum purposes, I believe that requisite number of meetings were not met. But if they have been met, then this board has to adopt a resolution declaring that a vacancy exists. And so I defer to staff in terms of whether or not the number have been met. I simply don't know that at this point. My understanding is at the last meeting, because he was in attendance, that he was counted towards quorum.
I think we had 2 meetings before that.
Mhm.
And just off the top of my head, he wasn't absent for 3 this year. I can't speak to what any
So it has to
absences.
be in a complete year, not like
They're not
the
sequential.
end of, yeah, and then this year.
I think,
Correct.
I'm pulling this out of the ether here. I thought it was 3 consecutive meetings or 5 meetings in a year, or 5 regular meetings, something like that. There is a formula.
Okay, so then my understanding is that we need to adopt another resolution as far as what should be done, because technically, I felt like I should have brought this up sooner, but I wasn't unsure. I kept going through and looking through the bylaws and trying to find it.
Director Avalos, maybe what we can do is bring back to the board during the November meeting, I believe that's our next meeting, some options for the board with respect to how to handle this. And if the number of absences is sufficient, then you can adopt a resolution. We can put it as an action item on the board agenda if that's okay.
Mhm.
The challenge there is there's an election
Mhm.
and it may be a moot point, but
Yeah.
and it might. And it may be something too, that if the board's interested to have a clarification of the bylaws to make it clearer. And maybe to bring the statute in and amend those bylaws so that the question is answered just by a simple review of the bylaws.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and we
going
can present
So-
options
Because
for you.
technically, we should only meet each quarter.
Correct.
Okay, that's only 4. Yeah, 4 meetings a year. So if you miss 2 of those, you've missed already half the year. Is that fair to the rest of us that are here faithfully?
Sure. Well, like I said, I'm happy to bring back some options and, in a memo format. And if the requisite number of meetings has been hit, in order to meet the statute, there's no reason why you couldn't take action in the November meeting.
Okay, so moving forward, consent agenda. All consent agenda items are considered routine in nature and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no individual discussion of these items unless requested by a member of the board or the public. Any item pulled from the consent agenda for discussion will be set aside until after approval of the consent agenda. Prior to taking any action, the public will be given the opportunity to comment on any consent agenda items. The consent agenda will be considered on or about 6 p.m. 7.1, approval of June 4th, 2024 regular meeting. Has everybody looked at the meeting minutes from the last meeting?
Yes.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting?
I make a motion for approval.
All in favor?
Bring it out to the public for
Oh,
comment. Ask if there's public comment.
do we have any public comment? Seeing as there's none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion passed to approve the regular meeting minutes. Okay, so we're moving on to treasurer report.
Microphone?
It's on.
Oh, it's on.
It's on.
Is that it? Is there-
No, this is, she just handed
Oh,
this.
oh,
in.
okay.
Oh, we have bank statements. But she made a spreadsheet for us.
Here's a copy. Another copy. Okay. So as of today's balance, oh, shoot, it's erased. $534,603.23. May's balance of 2024 was $434,666.71. We had check 1663 to Leon's Computers for $337.70. Check 1664, David Fay, March's timesheet, $2,500. Check 1665, David Fay, April timesheet, $1,100. Check 1666, Debbie Hubble timesheet, number 10, $868.75. June 2024 balance was $538,360.85. Check 1667, attorney fees, $1,581. Check 1668, Debbie Hubble timesheet number 11, $818.75. Check 1669, Leon Computers, $9,166.70. Check 1671, Sederma, that's our insurance for the board, $3,121.47. Check 1673, iDance Company, that was for the ESYN grant, $780. July 2024 balance, $522,792.58. There was a deposit of $24,424.71. Check 1660, David Fay, April timesheet, $1,150. Check 1672, Project Surf Camp, ESYN grant, $525. Check 1675, David Fay, May timesheet, $1,750. Check 1676, David Fay, June's timesheet, $1,975. Check 1677, Leon's Computers, $159.50. Check 1678, attorney fees, $4,082.82. Check 1679, Debbie Hubble, reimbursement for receipt was $16.27. August balance, 2024, $537,617.20. Check 1674, Project Cert Grant Phase 2, ESYN grant, $750. Check 1680, David Fay, July's timesheet, $1,475. Check 1681, Advantage Health of Hanford, $50,000, not cleared for the mental health grant. Check 1682 and 83 are voids. Check 1684, Spirit Horse Connections, was $52, and that one has not cleared. Oh, I had an error on my thing. And then check 1685, Freeway Lanes of Selma, ESYN grant, $760. That one has not cleared. Check 1686, Leon's Computers, $715.95. Check 1687, attorney fees, $113.91. That's it.
Treasurer Gallardo, you mentioned the revenue, a check from the county. And is that listed on this?
The check from what county? For what?
I thought I heard you say that we had
The Derma Insurance?
no, a revenue. We actually, the district had revenue and by Fresno County.
Oh, yes, there was one for 24,000. Oh, and there's also another one. It didn't get put in here. I just noticed that.
What?
It was 100 and
Oh.
some thousand.
I see. All right, thank you.
I have to go back to mine. But there was a second deposit as well.
Oh, it looks like on your sheet, you
There.
have one for 108,639.98 and one for $24,424
Where
and
is it? Where did I put
70.
it at? Where did it go?
It's the very top.
Oh, right here, I'm sorry. Deposit of May, 108,639.98. It's too little, the writing. So we had two deposits went in, and there's only 1, 2, 3 checks that have not cleared.
Question on Leon's computers back in June, the 9,000, is that for the computer and printer?
You should receive a copy of the invoices. They're supposed to go all through the board, and then I write the checks out.
Okay,
This was supposed to be happening months ago already.
question. Is this for the computer and printer? Website, 9,000? Oh, that project to get us up to. Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Copy?
Madam Chair, I think a motion simply to accept the treasurer's report,
Make a motion.
to accept, yeah.
Do I have a motion to accept the treasurer's report?
I'll second.
All in favor? Do I have any public comment or treasurer report? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion pass to approve the treasurer's report. Moving on, reports and announcements. 10-1 status report by Salma Fire Department on its CPR program.
Good evening, board. Ken and David. I have a PowerPoint for you. It's very quick. I won't bore you with the details. I apologize I wasn't here in June. Welcome the birth of a little girl, so I apologize.
Congratulations.
Thank you
Congratulations.
very much. Her due date was June 4th, the night of your meeting. I figured my wife might have an issue with that.
Yeah.
So apologies for the delay, where it's not necessarily a midway point, but we'll do the best with what we have. Okay, so year to date, we have taught 5 CPR classes, 1 in Spanish and 4 in English. We have our second Spanish only CPR class scheduled for September 28th. So far, we've certified 39 people in CPR and first aid. Our projected cost for the year in materials was $2,028.70. We're actually under budget year to date at only $836.83. So we're a little past midway and we're not even quite halfway there on the budget. There are some outstanding expenditures that need to take place, but it'll be far less than, it's insignificant. Personnel cost, we've budgeted $2,954.70. Year-to-date personnel cost is $1,321.61. So again, just under halfway. We have an additional, let me go back. So here's a couple pictures from one of our classes. I'm not very good at taking pictures, so I apologize. We've done 1 community event so far this year, which was the July 3rd event at the high school. We have National Night Out and Summer Raisin Festival on our to-do list. In the event we hit the end of the year and we have some remaining funds, we plan on utilizing that for an additional CPR class or depending on the amount there, potentially the bringing the Santa Festival, I don't know, the Christmas Light Festival, whatever that is, utilizing that as a hands-only CPR event as well. There has been some bumps in the road. If I remember correct, Vice Chair Herrera said there's no skin in the game. Those are his quote. We figured that out. And so moving forward, we're going to start implementing a $20 deposit because we have noticed people signing up for classes and not actually showing up the day of. We've implemented calling a week out and then calling the day before. We do all of our classes on Saturdays. So the Friday before we call and the week prior to that we call as well. But we've still noticed some people, I forgot, or hey, I had something come up. Those kinds of things are bound to happen. So to alleviate that, we're gonna begin implementing a $20 deposit. I wanted to notify you guys prior to doing that, however. Still free, which was the goal for us, but it also does provide some kind of accountability. Somebody wants their $20 back, and I want to do right and be financially responsible for the funds that you've granted us. So overall, I feel like it's been extremely successful, and I'm very proud to have implemented this, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity that you guys have granted, not only myself, but the community. Any questions?
I do. How did the citizens know that this class you're going to be having CPR classes?
We've been pretty, we do a lot of flyers
Mhm.
and then, honestly, it's been one of two ways. Initially and still today, News Around Selma has proven to be quite fruitful. If you live in the city of Selma, it seems like that's where we get all of our information, or at least a large majority of it, unfortunately, or fortunately.
You were
The
right the
sec-
first time.
The second, the second one actually, and I was actually very proud. I stopped in on the last program. I was on duty. I actually did it here because we had some training going on across the street. And everybody kind of said they heard it through word of mouth, which was actually really cool. So I had some high school students take the class and they told their teachers about it, and it's just kind of spread a little bit. So I've encouraged every class that I've come in contact with to reach out to their loved ones, their family, their friends, their brothers, sisters, kids, adult, whoever, right? And so it's kind of I feel like it's gained some traction. I feel like initially we saw some lower numbers
Mhm.
and I was a little worried. And as the program has kind of gone on, we've seen those numbers continue to increase. So I feel like it's gaining traction.
Right. I had some senior citizens ask me if we would pay for CPR training, and I told them to reach out to you guys.
Absolutely. I have not received any.
No,
I
we
haven't-
just this week.
Oh, okay. I was like, I
Yeah.
haven't received any phone calls that I'm aware of.
Right.
But I would be more than happy to do that. Absolutely. Do you know, yeah, I can exchange.
We
some-
could, yeah, we could talk about it later.
Yep.
But yes, they were really I had told them that you guys were doing that, and they're very interested in having their senior members learn it.
As a mom.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's been an amazing program. I hope, ideally, like, we don't ever have to utilize it.
Right.
But when we do, I'll be very proud to say that we provided that training for them.
Okay,
That's awesome.
that's wonderful.
Thank you.
I just want to say thank you
Yeah,
because
thank
my
you.
daughter, son-in-law, and grandson went to your class.
How did they enjoy it?
They enjoyed it. They had a very good experience.
Good.
And Dina's been in nursing for quite a while, so she's had to have her CPR.
Yeah.
And she was at the point where she needed to have it renewed, but then the husband and son went with her.
Oh, I was actually kind of curious. I was curious to see if any family members or anybody or knew of anybody who has taken it, but I appreciate, yeah, that's great.
It was a very good experience. And again, I say good because with Nicholas, because Nicholas was on the baseball team that the father went down at the game.
Yeah.
And everybody that knows CPR, the better, that
Yep.
they can see the symptoms or, at least check them out and stuff.
Absolutely. My biggest fear is always not knowing.
Yes.
Knowing, and so if you can give the tool of knowledge, it'll be teach a man to fish, right?
Right,
Especially
right.
like, when you're home and the kids are there and if something happens, are they gonna know what to do?
In May, I'm from city of Selma, and so in May, I reached out, we taught the class in May. I'd reached out prior, but we actually reached out to the school district and we actually held a class specifically for students that were interested from the high school. And I don't know how that's going to turn out in the future as far as if they're interested in continuing that. But I grew up here in Selma with parents that both worked, that both went to school. I was looking after my sister, and I feel like there's probably a lot of kids that are in that same boat here within the community. And so making sure that we're creating those opportunities for them is very important, as well as seniors and really everybody, regardless.
Right.
My goal is to really try to knock down any of those barriers that may be in the way of somebody receiving that education or the knowledge or ability to provide. So.
That's awesome. So they just contact the fire department?
Yeah,
Where-
absolutely. So we actually put our phone number. We had some technical difficulties, I should say, within the city itself. We had put the phone number down on the flyer. Well, the city got new updated phones, and so we went through that. I don't know if you guys are aware. I don't know if you were made aware of that or not, but some numbers got changed around a little bit. But we worked through that. But yeah, there's a phone number that they call our administrative assistant, and and there's a way that you can QR code it, and she's got that all. I apologize, but I'm not the best at technology. Like they have secret ways, but QR code and the old phone call.
Okay.
And we register them, and
So they call the city number here?
yeah, so they
Okay.
call the phone number to the fire department
Okay.
across the street. So they
That's
speak
great.
directly to Samantha, who is our admin assistant. She actually the fire chief. She runs the whole show. So
Sounds wonderful. Well, thank you.
To kind of emphasize the benefit that you're providing, as a part of my job as well. I'm a nurse. I had to recertify under ACLS, PALS, and BLS.
Yeah.
4-hour class cost me $350.
Yeah, the city of Selma Fire Department is actually in the process of establishing their, I'm gonna do a little shameless plug. We're actually in the process, we just became ACLS certified to instruct, so we're in the process of implementing all that. We're trying to branch out, our teaching capabilities. But this is the highlight for us. But yeah, it's expensive, all the way through. It's not cheap. A CPR class at any given place is somewhere between 65 and 85 bucks.
Mhm.
Depending on what you're getting. A lot of programs are moving to like a hybrid. They're moving to like a hybrid type where you do all the book work and then you just show up and you do the skills and you go, hey, here's 30 to 2. And which is great, but there's typically a lot of people with a lot of questions. And all the people that we have instructing are all employees who have unfortunately had an opportunity to CPR on lots of people, big, small, and everything in between. And so there's a lot of nuances there to that, to actually doing it in real life and not just on a dummy. And so yeah, there's a knowledge base there, I think, that you get not doing a hybrid class. So
That's true. Makes a difference.
I think so.
Yeah.
It does. Just as a side, question.
Yeah.
In the past, we've funded for a full cardiac defibrillator monitor for one of the rigs that you guys have.
Sure.
Question, when I took my ACLS, research recently,
Huh?
we were shown the benefits of an automatic, like CPR machine. I think it was a
Yes, it's
Stryker.
called a Lucas device.
Yes.
Yeah,
Do you guys,
absolutely.
do you have those?
We do not. You set me up. We are in the process of looking for funding for one of those. I have an EMS supervisor that is adamant about putting those on our rigs. And there's a list of, I'm not prepared to give a presentation or
How
make a
much do they run
proposal.
roughly, do you know?
Huh?
How much do they run roughly?
I would take a swag and I believe they're somewhere between $15,000 and $20,000 each. I know for us, we staff 3 ambulances a day. Potentially, I'm in charge, right? Currently, I'm responsible for the EMS division, looking to add a 4th unit. Those ambulances cover a large geographical area, including the city of Parlier and Fowler. That is something that is definitely in our sights. That's something that we're interested in pursuing. Also reading your bylaws, I'm aware that you can only donate to one agency one time a year. So my plan was to come back and speak to you guys probably in November, and it'd be more than just CPR. Full disclosure.
Mhm.
Yeah. Now, there is also on our bylaws, if the board all agrees to fund a separate initiative, we can do that if we all agree on it.
Okay, so
So
that
if
doesn't
it's outside
require,
of that.
we can bypass the one deposit to one given
Right.
agency.
Yes.
Right.
Perfect.
Yes.
Okay. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
before I-
No, just great job.
I do appreciate, I still live in Selma from here and I do appreciate what you guys did for us. I think it's small, but I think that's kind of how it starts. And hopefully, I have a little saying, I'm trying to make Selma the new Sweden. So yeah, I appreciate your guys' support. It wouldn't have happened without you, so thank you.
Thank you.
One last question. Will you be going against the city council to ask for this also possibly?
They've already determined.
But wouldn't that be a,
It's not my price, that's the wrong.
but wouldn't that be a special?
It may be a spec.
It's LUC. Oh, Lucas.
Sure.
Lucas.
Okay.
Thank
Thank you.
you. Anybody else have any more questions? Next, we're moving on to 10.3 workshop, that's not it. Quarterly update by Adventist Health on progress of its grant-funded program.
Hello.
No,
Hear me now?
yes.
Okay, perfect. Board, Adelie Rosales with Adventist Health, here to provide a quarterly update. This data is from August 1st of 2023 through September 6th of 2024. The last time that we provided a quarterly update was March of 19th of 2024. This is a very wordy narrative, so I'm just going to try to break it down. And if you have any questions after I present, please feel free to ask me those questions. And I'm not going to go in any particular order. Since we've started the program with the hybrid shift with the LCSW working in our emergency department in Selma and working in one of our clinics in Selma, we've seen a total of 333 patients. 77 of those patients were seen in our emergency room department, and 256 patients were seen in the clinic, meaning they received psychotherapy services from our LCSW. Now, I provided a number here. If you look down under 3B, in the clinic alone, patients that have established care with the LCSW, we have a unique number. Unique patients means this is her patient panel. So these are patients that are seeing her for ongoing services. They've established care with her. And we have a total of 68 patients that are receiving care from our LCSW here in Selma. For the clinic patients, it also breaks it down. I know the numbers are kind of small. I did provide a PDF so that you can view it later as a digital file, but 31 out of those 68 established patients reside in Selma. And 5 reside in Parlier. I know those are within your boundary map, and so that's why I wanted to particularly highlight that. Our LCSW was not able to be here because she is involved in other initiatives within what she does. But I did have a chance to connect with her, and she did inform me that one of the important things that she wants to highlight about this program is because she is able to see the patient in the ER and establish a follow-up with them, there's a sense of trust that the patients establish with her. Where otherwise, let's say, I asked her, I said, what can you highlight from this program? Like, what particularly stands out to you? What would be your vision, if we were to expand the program? What does that look like to you? And I said, would it be to get another LCSW and have her work, different shifts? Maybe she focuses on the ED and you focus on clinic patients. And she said, what's very unique about her role, or the role of the hybrid shift, is that patient, like I said, one, they establish trust with that person, and they're able to provide immediate care where she has a lot of flexibility in her schedule to say, I'm only in the clinic, let's say Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, but I know you have to be seen. So I have that flexibility to open up my schedule. The emergency department says, hey, we're okay with you going, for an hour to the clinic so that you can see that patient right away. That way that patient's not waiting until there's availability on someone's schedule. And that's really unique. And I think that's why it's allowed her to have great success with having those 68 established patients on her patient panel. Another thing is that she's been able to collaborate not only with the professional providers in our clinic, with the doctors and the nurses, who there's an open line of communication. They can reach out to her anytime and help assess a patient, or connect with the patient so that she can provide some type of resource before she starts seeing them for psychotherapy services, but also collaborating with other, she called them higher level of care facility. She did mention there's see if I can find it. I apologize. I'm kind of.
Is it Rio Vista?
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yes. She highlighted that they see, I believe, I included here, I know it's
River Vista.
adult and youth.
Yes.
But she's been able to get patients who would otherwise go to LA, have to wait to be seen. She's been able to get them seen at the Sierra Vista or I'm probably not saying it correctly. You said it correctly the first time.
River Vista, right?
River Vista in Madera, I believe.
Mhm.
She's been able to get them to establish a higher level of care and to be seen a lot sooner. And that's just one example, but she's also collaborating with other higher level of care facilities. And it really helps the patient with their long-term mental health. Some of the challenges that we see are patients that are diagnosed with like schizophrenia or other mental health disorders that where the patient's not stable and so they miss their appointments. We do everything that we can within our protocols that we have to reach out to the patient 3 times via phone call, send them a letter. Sometimes patients change their contact information, so it's hard to get a hold of them. So those are just some of the challenges that we're seeing, but that's very normal within the behavioral health sector. Another thing that I thought was very neat to share is that our LCSW is certified in, I believe it's EDMR. And that stands for eye movement desensitization, sorry, I can't say, and reprocessing. That's a very specialized training in behavioral health. And our LCSW wanted to highlight that she's been specifically treating some patients with this EMDR technique. She says she has currently 3 to 4 patients that have been receiving this treatment, and they've shown remarkable progress. This includes individuals that would have initially presented with severe symptoms such as persistent nightmares, difficulty regulating emotions, and a pervasive sense of despair. And ways that they've shown improvement after their multiple EMDR sessions are that they've demonstrated significant reductions in trauma symptoms, such as improved emotional regulation, fewer nightmares, and overall increase in feelings of confidence and hopefulness for the future. So those are just some of the patient highlight stories. Also, like I mentioned, the flexibility of being able to just adjust her schedule so that she can see patients that are in crisis. They're not having to wait months or weeks. She's able to see them within the week and open up her schedule. There was, if you look at, I believe it's going to be three, 3A. There's a breakdown by month. So if you look at from January, when she just started her patient panel, these are strictly clinic visits, psychotherapy visits. January 1st, she saw 1 patient, the following month, 6, and then she built up to 24 in March, 37 in April, 40 patients in May, 44 patients in June, 51 patients in July, and it did dip in August to 47 patients. September says 6, but this is as of Friday, September the 6th, so that number is going to be low. She was getting so many referrals for Selma patients. She didn't have room to continue seeing the patients she had established. So she did have to not accept any more new patients. However, because of the no-show rate, she has now opened up her schedule again to allow for that. So I just wanted to be able to explain why there is a dip from 51 patients to 47 patients from July to August of this year. You guys have any questions as I'm giving some of these updates? No?
Just to clarify, first,
Yes.
out of the 333 individuals, those were all seen in ED by the social worker?
The social worker saw, yes, she saw 333 individuals, 256 in the clinic, doing therapy services for those patients, and 77 were seen in the emergency room that she connected with one-on-one. That doesn't include, we don't record if a provider reached out to her about a patient and she was able to accommodate them on the schedule. that doesn't count. 'Cause she would have need to do, one-on-one patient contact and verbally or, physically seeing the patient in person.
So the 256 patients are referred or they just came in the clinic?
It's a combination of patients that showed up in the emergency room in crisis. And if it was determined that they needed psychotherapy services, then they followed up with her. They were not sent to any other provider. She would see them in clinic.
When does she send them to Rio Vista? Or River Vista? When
That-
does she send them there?
That's if they're needing a higher level of care beyond the therapy services, then she connects with them. I believe she mentioned, and I think I included it in here, they have like group therapy sessions.
Yes.
They have outpatient services that they're able to offer. So if it's determined that they need other services that we're not able to provide, then she connects with them or other facilities.
That's an amazing, amazing place. I mean, everybody should tour that facility. It's just, I was flabbergasted when I went in there and saw the services that they provide.
Great. I'm glad to hear that you're aware of that facility.
Sorry. I don't have any other questions. Do you guys have any questions?
I have a question.
Okay.
How long do you see having to continue getting a grant from us?
Our organization is 100% committed to continuing to support the program that we established through your partnership. And so, as long as there's a partnership, we're open and welcome to it. But if that doesn't continue, our Adventist Health Organization is going to continue to support this position because I think it's very important and vital to the community members.
Where else do you get grants from
We
to
get
help?
for other programs.
No, yeah, other grants programs that you get monies from to help you.
We get grant funding from the state, federally. We have different programs such as our residency programs where we have doctors that are training in family medicine. We receive funding from them. It's always contingent on how much funding is available and what they're able to give. We have different grant funding that we receive for different initiatives. We have a mobile care program. We just added another mobile care clinic in that serves Kings County, Fresno County, Tulare County, Madera County, and Kern County, where we provide free medical services to patients so that they could get important screenings done. We do different vaccinations, a variety of different testing for women's services. Just to give you an example, so we have different initiatives and programs where we receive state funding. We have donors that's not necessarily a grant. They do one-time gifts for different programs or medical equipment that we may need that we're raising funds for.
And this will be my same question before. So out of the people that you service, okay, so did you ask like Fresno County, Dinuba, Reedley, Sanger, Fowler, Orange Cove, not Crothers, forget Crothers. Did you ask their boards?
Not for the specific project because the patients that we are mainly seeing are Selma residents and because
Well, that's not what I see on
we're-
here.
we're providing services from our Selma Emergency Department and from our Selma Clinic because we're based here.
Because it says here, Selma patients, you know, that there's 21, but you have 7 from Fresno. Dinuba has 6, I mean, and so on. You have patients from other towns.
Yes, we have here in the Selma Hospital, we have patients from outside communities that seek services,
Yeah,
that seek
well, that's
medical
my
attention.
question. You know, if they're gonna be, you're gonna be helping them. It only makes sense that you would also ask their towns for some help too, at least a little bit.
We are, with our agreement, we are matching the $100,000 that the board has given us.
Uh-huh.
And so we don't have a need to ask for additional funding because we are helping offset some of
And
those
then
costs.
if you lose hours, what are you gonna do?
If we lose your funding, our organization is backing us 100%, and they would like to continue to see this program move forward so that we can continue helping our Selma residents and any other individuals that may come to our ED and to the clinics.
So that means that if we don't give you yours and we give this grant to somebody else, then you're not gonna use it.
They're still gonna run the program. she
Yeah, they're
said.
still gonna run the program.
We will still run the program,
So it's
correct?
like you don't really need it. If it's, I mean, in my way of thinking, it sounds like you don't, you know, it's there, we'll use it. But it's there if we need it.
With grant funding, the goal is always to try to make the program sustainable. Sometimes it's not feasible. There's times that due to budgets, we're not able to continue our program. But the goal is always, when we get grant funding, is to find ways to continue the program if we weren't to get any more funding. And we've been very grateful that the board has agreed
Okay,
to a
because-
second year.
I know of another board and they got like 600,000 grant.
I think the nearest board for us would be Reedley. And if we have an initiative for Reedley, then we would ask them to help with the project that's going to serve the Reedley residents. We wouldn't ask them because they have one patient, or let's say 5 patients coming to Selma, to help fund the Selma initiative, if that makes any sense.
But still, out of 68 patients total, you know, less than half of them are Selma. The rest all go to those other little cities.
We have some, I didn't include, but we also have patients in the ED, the 77 patients that we have. We also have patients that are Selma residents that are benefiting from this program. And it's going to help the community in the end, even if they're not all 100% Selma residents, that's going to help your community. We have a lot of patients too that are not necessarily residing. We have a lot of people that are transients, you know, that travel from town to town. And so it's going to benefit the city of Selma as well.
Does anybody have any more questions?
No, I have a comment though. Thank you for taking this project and running with it. I don't think at the time we started this, we knew how it would impact, you know, our city, our town. But 333 individuals being treated for mental crisis is a big deal. If it was one person who was having a mental crisis and it was your family member, it's a big deal. So 333 is money well spent, I think. And to retain 68% for ongoing treatment is, I mean, it doesn't sound like a big number, but it really is in the grand scheme. When you're looking at this demographic with schizophrenia and different diagnoses, to have 68 with ongoing treatment is awesome. So thank you.
Our pleasure. And another item that I didn't get to highlight was that a majority of these patients are not showing up in the ER again because they didn't get the right help or, you know, timely help, even in that case. So we're helping reduce revisits to the emergency room. And that also reduces not just, you know, that reduces our EMS's time. They're not having to, you know, take patients to the ER because we're not addressing the issues that they have. And with this funding, we've been able to provide that resource that the patients need in the time of crisis and following them through the clinic as well. Thank you. Thank you so much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Moving forward, 10.3 workshop to consider draft financial and accounting procedures. Recommendation, conduct workshop and provide direction as needed.
Thank you, Chair, members of the board. This is a workshop, so there's no action to be taken, but I would recommend that the board consider if this is something that the board would like to develop for action, maybe at the next meeting in November, that a subcommittee be appointed to follow up and then return to the board. As noted in the staff's report, Vice Chair Herrera asked the staff to develop a flow chart to illustrate the path of the district revenue from receipt to payment. And in the process of putting this flow chart together, it appeared that there were no financial procedures in place. And so I had I had financial procedures from a previous employment with the Fresno Local Agency Formation Commission. And so I called up the executive officer and said, hey, how about lending me a copy of those that I can then cobble together something for this board to consider. And so Brian did, and in the development, first off, to fulfill the request from the vice chair, it became clear that this district would benefit from having financial policies and procedures in place, just like the district board felt it benefited from having policies in place regarding the mission and how the mission of the board is fulfilled. So I put these together as a draft. I've made some assumptions in here. If I was off, if we do have financial procedures someplace and I wasn't able to find them, or if there's something in here that doesn't seem to be to fit well with the board's own perception and how it wants to do business, this is simply a work in progress. But let me go through some of the high points here. So the financial procedures are guides to fiscal procedures for the Summit Healthcare District. And it provides appropriate internal accounting and administrative controls and establishes a uniform and systematic approach. This is consistent with the past comments by the board about public accountability and transparency. I'd like to use a very general example, and that is if all the revenue that we collected was put in a big glass jar so the public could see it, that's transparent. But how functional is it? And that's not what we're doing now, but that's a point I'd like to bring up to say, okay, we have transparency. We had a list by the treasurer today of checks that were written. But in terms of how the controls are with the funding, I present to this board whether those could be tuned up. And one of the challenges.
Excuse me, what does that mean, the controls of the board? Because all that happens with this account is there's checks that get written out for invoices and grants. There's no withdrawals, there's no credit card, there's no debit card, there's no withdrawals. It's just deposits and checks that get written out, and everything's on for financial reports, and there's copies of bank statements. So it's been transparent. The only thing that it's just not posted on the website. The financial reports aren't.
No, neither are procedures for how the finances would be accomplished. And that's what I made a point in the staff report to say that the public may want to know how this works. And this is one way of letting the public know when the funds come in, who's responsible. And it also highlights an issue that came up recently with the chair interested in picking up the mail. That's something normally that our clerk does. So there are some, and we've resolved that. That wasn't an issue, but it highlights a lack of procedures. In fact, I understand from our clerk that she has a verbal agreement with the board for her services. We don't have a written agreement.
Mhm.
There is no job description that may help to clear up who does what and who's responsible. And it's also about accountability. And if we could just, if I can address your question, Board Member Gerardo, I think we can come back to that, and hopefully it answers your question. Or it may prompt more questions, so we'll see. One of the challenges that I noticed in putting together the financial procedures is that, and that's the first issue here, is the unity of command. So these procedures come from an agency where there is an executive officer who is responsible to the board, and then staff and contractors are responsible to the executive officer. In a way, it's kind of like an hourglass. So the top of the hourglass up here are the board members that set policy. And then that policy is then transmitted to the executive, and the executive is responsible to the board to fulfill that policy. And we don't have that here. What we have is kind of a mixture of officers. And the challenge there is that the executive officer, executive director is responsible for preparing a budget, and yet executive director has no control over the bank, over the accounting side. So the treasurer does not report to the executive officer. I presume the treasurer and the secretary both report to the board. And as treasurer, board members, it's something that's allowed by law. It's in your bylaws. There's nothing wrong with it. But it just means that as an executive director, I do not have the full spectrum of responsibilities that I can be held accountable to the board for. And that's one of the challenges that I've noticed in this working for the district this year. And our clerk operates rather independently, and we're lucky that we're operating with all, we're communicating enough. We've got a contractor here with Joey and his services, but he doesn't report to me. If there's a problem, he reports to the board. The board is either satisfied with his work or not. I mean, that's, you look at the three of us, we are your employees. But I would call my position at this point a weak executive or executive light. So I'm really only have executive functions for a few things. Now, again, that is the way it is. It's in effect, it's consistent with our bylaws. But the question that I would pose to the board is, does the board wish to have a strong executive that would take over the responsibility of the treasurer and the secretary, so that those functions are then held by one person who is accountable to the entire board? That's a rhetorical question. I'm not asking for a decision. That is something that came up in the development of the financial policies. So the recommendation would be whether the board considers shifting responsibilities for the treasurer and the secretary. In fact, in our discussions, Treasurer Gallardo, we've had discussions offline, and I think it's clear that you have your life outside of the board is very demanding. The work that we've got going here with the board is frequently competes for your time. So, and I'm not sure how much time Secretary Avalos you spend on secretarial duties or maintaining the record, but those are things then that this board relies on, just like the chair and vice chair. It relies on board members taking those responsibilities on.
Yes, true.
Okay, and that is
Every board member has a position that they should be doing
right.
on this board.
And to the extent that those duties conflict with your personal time, then I would recommend you look to having your executive take those on. If it's okay to share your personal life with the board and the duties of the board, then it can continue. But at that point, there isn't at that point, I would recommend that the board consider some level of accountability as what those tasks are, so that as those tasks are being performed, those parties can say that I've done this, I've done that. Right now, I didn't see a metric to describe exactly what is expected of each of the positions, including, I guess, maybe the one exception is my own, because I have an employment agreement that lays it out. But for the clerk, the secretary, for the treasurer, for the chair and vice chair, those duties are very broadly described in the bylaws. So if those duties are not being performed to the satisfaction of the entire board, then there's a potential conflict when we get to kind of a he said, she said, where there's no metric to then judge the performance. And that's what I'm suggesting be discussed. Not that it has to be adopted, but that's something that came up as I was working on this. Because in the source document, the executive officer of this agency is responsible to the commission for making sure that these guidelines are being carried out. And that's not the case here. There really is a lack of accountability other than a person's personal standard to perform to the level that they see fit. So that was the first issue, was the what I call the unity of command or unity of management. The second issue, in going through the financial and accounting procedures and comparing them with the bylaws, there's a couple of spots in the treasurer's responsibilities outlined in the bylaws that simply have some language that could be tightened up. For instance, the bylaw says the treasurer shall have the responsibility for the safekeeping and dispersal of funds. It's a lot tighter to say the treasurer is responsible for the safekeeping. This is not a game changer for that role, but it's simply more precise language. The second, in paragraph B on page 5 of the staff's report, is that it says the treasurer shall receive regular monthly reports with respect to the financial condition of the district. I think the intent was the treasurer shall provide regular monthly reports, or those could be
Right.
regular
I
quarterly
did.
reports.
I did, and then several chairs asked for them to be changed to where they didn't want the bank statements. Then another chair decided, no, let's just have the financial report. So you weren't here. You weren't here prior to that, so
Mhm.
that's why those changed. Now, the secretary gets a copy of the bank statements, and they're easily printed on her machine just like they are on mine. So I don't see what's the problem.
Was it an inconvenience to change up midstream of these
That's,
reports?
he was a chair at one point.
But
and
I'm
he-
addressing to you, was it inconvenient to you to have to make those changes?
No, that's what he wanted. He said he didn't want the bank statements on there anymore, and then Colleen did and didn't, and then now we have a new chair that wants them back.
Hmm.
So I said, she can print a copy of the bank statements and she can have them here for the meeting.
And the challenge then is that it's appropriate for these reporting requirements to change, but where is it written that somebody can pick up the ball? Let's say Debbie's out.
I've been doing the chair's position ever since, like, everything that the chair is supposed to be doing, Danny was, he was never doing all the agreements for the proposals and everything. They're signed by me because he's never here.
Mhm.
They're supposed to be signed by the chair. Everything's supposed to be run through the chair, everything. Which she was told months ago to be sending all the invoices. That's why I didn't get Joey's last invoice. So every person on this board is supposed to be getting a invoice from the bill. Remember I explained to you guys the last auditor that was just giving us a 25,000 with no description? Remember that meeting? And I said, you guys didn't see that, and then we had a problem there. Do you remember that at that time? So everybody is supposed to be getting a copy of the invoice, because they go to her, they go in the mail, she gets them, she's supposed to scan them on her machine and send them out to each board member. She gets them, and then I get them, and I make sure everybody sees it, just like today. I asked her again, she said yes, so that's how it's done, and then I cut the checks.
Right, and the reason we're talking about it now is none of that scenario is documented. So whether we stay with that scenario or a different one, we just need to have it documented. So in case, let's say you're not
So-
here, I'm not here, Debbie's
Yeah,
not here.
Which
it
is
needs
great,
to be
and board
documented.
members are supposed to be on the check. Board members that are elected board members are in charge of the account. That's who should be overseeing the check account, the bank account. So
Yeah.
if you guys want to change it, for me, I would rather table all this until, so we can all take a good look at what needs to be changed and then make like what you guys all want done, because there's always this, well, I did, but I didn't, and I didn't, it's just the back and forth. So why don't we just come up with a better system rather than all this paperwork of, because it's really not that difficult. It's not that hard. It's At one point, you said when you were the chair, you didn't want the bank, remember I would put the invoice.
Right, we went through that.
Okay, I
Let me
know, but
just
I
ask
put
you
the
one
stats.
question. Did you read what you have in front of you?
No, I haven't even had
Okay.
time. Haven't had
So-
time because this was barely shot out on Friday and I went out of
Right,
town
and
and
it's a
now we're
lot.
here.
It's a lot to go through.
Exactly.
So
Right.
instead of
a lot.
discussing all of it here, can
Now
we
we can
just
table
schedule
all of
that
it.
workshop? Because there's gonna be a lot of information that we have to kind of agree on.
I mean, have you looked at
I
all?
did, today I did. Yeah, I went
But
through
haven't
everything.
I
And
haven't
it-
had time. I'm just
it's-
being honest. I
It's,
haven't
no,
had
I
time.
know,
It's a lot.
It is a lot.
I had this and I didn't even know I was gonna receive a copy. I made my own copies.
It's a lot to go
So
through.
just to clarify, this is the workshop, but certainly not on the agenda to approve anything.
Mm-mm.
So if you can continue with the workshop and then certainly, if you so desire, and then at the next board meeting, in November, you can raise additional questions. You don't have to adopt anything in November if you don't want to. But this is just a workshop to start the conversation, not to vote on anything at all.
Okay, because yeah, we do need, like, some of us haven't had time to go through. Yeah, from start to finish, because it's a lot. And I went through it today, and it is a lot. And there's a lot of things I want to strike through and change, modify. And I'm sure everybody does as well. But yeah, if we can come back and go through those, item by item in more depth. Right now, you're kind of skimming to the meat of it. But if we go through everything, as a group, we can make those changes as we go.
That's fine. That's a good way, if this is too big to consider at this point, and if there is a lot of work here, then I could, guess we're at a crossroads here. I could complete the report, or the board could choose to, or the chair could choose to assemble a subcommittee. And since the treasurer is an important part of this process, and perhaps the vice chair could serve on the subcommittee, and we could meet prior to the November meeting and work through these details to resolve any issues.
I think that's a great idea.
I just have a hesitancy on that. It's like what we did when we went through the workshop for the policies.
Mhm.
We were all involved in it. We all had a say. We didn't have a subcommittee. I'm just thinking that we should all have a say and not just a subcommittee on it.
It's up to the chair. and the
Because it
board.
is a lot. There's a lot of,
Yeah.
you did your homework. You put
Thank
a
you.
lot here. Yeah, you did. You give us a lot to think about, but there's some directions that we may not want to go in.
So would you propose that, and I'm trying to get my head around the context so I can provide some recommendation. Are you suggesting that the next time we meet in November would be that workshop?
Like
Or-
we did with the policy, it was a special meeting only for all of those policies.
Okay.
So I would suggest, if everybody agrees, just a special meeting and we only go through this because it's a lot.
Serve at the board's pleasure.
That's something that you guys are interested in, having a special meeting and going just through this.
I'm good with that.
A lot.
Okay. So then we have to pick a date.
Well, our next meeting is November, I think it's November 18th,
Well, November,
19th. That could be the day of the workshop.
I might be in Texas. I don't think I'm gonna be here.
A regularly scheduled meeting, the next one.
We want a special meeting before that, right? So why don't we, send an email out what works good for everybody, and then we pick that date.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Right, yeah, I would think we still have to see if this is available too, so we can work through Debbie on that.
So sometime in October,
Mhm.
Oh,
So-
bad time.
any October date?
I'm sorry, my friend is on the fair board and I help her. So I'm at the fair every day. And then right now, my husband is campaigning, so that's it.
Is it possible to meet at the fair? Have a, have a,
The Brown Act, you cannot do that.
oh, under the
So
Brown
I'm
Act.
Campaigning, so.
How about later this month, September? I'll give everybody a chance to go through and read everything.
Like I said, I'm campaigning with my husband, so
So would you be opposed to the rest of the board meeting? Because we need to make these changes.
Mhm. Let me look in September. Do we want to do it? I mean,
Why can't we just meet in December?
because we want to do it before the November meeting, right?
We,
Really up to
Would
the
be-
board.
I mean,
Up to
yeah,
you.
there's nothing to say we need to, but it'd be preferable.
Yeah.
Our board, this board is gonna be different come the election in November.
I would like to get everything situated before we get the new board members on board.
Yeah.
So when they come in, everything's cut and dry and there's no, huh?
New or old
Yeah.
board members?
Yeah, but
We're familiar with
Yeah.
what's going on, how
I
it's
prefer to
been.
have it before. So if you guys want to do it, nobody can do it on a Saturday.
Absolutely not.
Um,
I'm campaigning with my brother-in-law.
like I said, I'm pretty well taken all the way through December, because then you have Thanksgiving in there.
Pick some dates and then we'll see if we could all meet.
yeah, that's
How
what
about
I'm
we do that?
saying. Send out some random dates
Okay.
and then,
Okay.
we're gonna do it. And if we have a majority, we're gonna meet and that's it.
And so the quorum will be the critical
Yeah,
number.
It's three.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay. And does any board member have an objection to me reaching out and just maybe talking through issues
No.
one-on-one to help to clarify
Yeah.
and illuminate from my side as well? Is that okay?
Yeah.
And I won't tell anybody what anybody else thought, because that would put me in hot water with Mr. Legal Counsel. So
Yes,
I'll
that's
be
fine.
reaching out and,
Picking our brains.
and it's I think this is a great exercise too, because it puts, the expectation that you have for your executive director is an important part of this. If we stay status quo with the board members serving as officials, or if it moves around, or if there's someplace, some other mix, having the opportunity to talk about this, with each of the board members is going to be good.
Okay. So do we need a motion to?
No, I don't think you need a motion to continue, but perhaps Debbie could circulate like a doodle poll kind of
Right,
thing.
that's what I was gonna say, do a doodle.
And there may be somebody in the audience, who has a question on this matter.
Yeah, it's open to the
Does
public.
anybody from the audience? Okay, seeing as there's none, we're gonna move forward. Action
Stay
items,
the whole meeting.
what happened?
I have to stay the whole meeting. Oh.
Oh, right, sorry. 11.1, consideration of proposals to perform financial audit for fiscal year 23-24. Recommendation, authorize the chair to sign agreement with Harshwell and Associates. I did read them. So, do I make a motion or do I?
I
If
have a
there's any
question.
questions.
Okay,
Where are these people from?
You mean
The one that's gonna do the audit, that you want to do the audit?
well, the one I'm recommending, I believe, is,
of
Oakland.
they're from,
Yeah.
oh, yeah.
The area.
Mhm.
Are they gonna be charging travel? What's the whole
Yeah,
cost? I haven't even seen the
Yeah, travel
paperwork.
time.
What's the whole
and
cost
then
they're
the
charging?
stay. Are you gonna be charging us that?
They have a fee. There is no
Mhm.
allowance for, additional expenses. Now, the JWT, and Associates, that firm did the audit last year. And, in the interest of finding competitive bids, your staff sent out the request for proposal and received, 3 proposals. The, lowest cost was, Harshwall and Company. The second was, and I think I have the amounts here, Harshwall came in at 11,000. JWT and Associates came in at 12,500 and
Mhm.
noted out-of-pocket expenses limited to $925. And the third was by Nelson, a firm, Nelson CPA for 15,000.
Mhm.
So the,
When we get some time to look, I have not even gotten to see any of this, and these people are from Oakland. They're gonna charge us travel time, or they gonna charge us all these other fees, and do they even have an office over here near us at all, or?
no, but it would, the estimate came in at 11,000. There was no other,
No other fees?
there's no other fees discussed. Now, if, let's say, for instance, I'm not casting any aspersions on the recommendation, but if they come back to say, great, we're happy to sign for 11,000 and we're gonna limit our other costs, and that, to me, that would be a reason to reevaluate the other proposals.
Mhm.
So perhaps, if the board is in agreement, it could also stipulate that, to authorize the chair to sign, if there are, no additional costs.
Yeah, we can stipulate that in the agreement. The other thing too is that we're a relatively portable type of operation, meaning that it's probably unnecessary for them to actually come down to this area because the auditing services
Could they
here.
do, the Zoom? If they want to present, I mean, say we did hire, could they just be on Zoom?
Yeah, absolutely. That's like, I do a lot of different governmental agencies. Some of them are complex and that requires the auditors to come down, but this type of agency can be done all electronically and then they can appear via
Right.
Zoom.
Yeah. Now, today I did go through and I studied all the proposals. And when you do have time to go through it, this one that you're proposing that we accept, they do a lot of districts, in the area in California.
They're pretty well known.
Yeah, very, very, I was impressed with them and their references based on the others. And the cost is reasonable compared to the others.
As long as we don't get charged extra.
I will personally make sure that their agreement has a cap of
Mhm.
11,000.
And I'll tell you that the request for proposals had a lot of requirements. And the Harshwall and Company was most responsive to each of those requirements. So I felt in reviewing that very little was taken for granted. And there's other options available that's in the staff report. The board has the option of selecting another firm that responded, reissuing the RFP if if you feel that excuse me, none of these proposals met the match, or taking any other action deemed necessary.
Question on the timing. If the board were to take action, is that preferable in terms of timing to get the auditor engaged, or do we have time to hunt this till November meeting? What's your preference?
Well, yeah, there were dates specified, beginning with today and the board taking action, and then milestones along the way. So any delay would just simply push those out. And since the three respondents actually addressed those dates, we would have to give them the opportunity to see if that revised,
Resubmit.
to resubmit any of their,
Because like, for example, I noticed on Harshawal, they're only good for 60 days. So it sounds to me like the preferred route is for action tonight,
correct,
Mhm.
preferred, but not the only.
but not the only.
It's up to you.
So, I make a motion to move forward.
I'll second the motion, but I just want to make sure everybody has an opportunity to take a look
Oh,
at
because
this.
it
Is
came
there a
up
way
with
that we
11,000.
can vote on it?
Gonna check and make sure that no extra fees.
No, we'll put that in the agreement, and if they push back for any reason, then we'll push this off and come back to the board. But it'll be clear in the contract.
Okay, so I made a motion,
A second.
And
Anthony second.
public comment.
Do we have any public comments? None? All in favor? Aye.
Hey,
Motion passed to move forward contingent on no extra fees or.
Yeah.
Okay, so next is 11.2 report by the Ad hoc Executive Director Recruitment Committee. Did anybody look through the resume for Corinne?
yes.
Okay, does anybody have anything any input?
Consider this is the report by the
Oh,
ad hoc
okay.
committee.
So this person is wanting to take your position?
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah, I
Okay,
haven't
Lorraine,
looked
do
at it.
you want to say anything?
She's very nice. She's very knowledgeable and everything, but I'm sorry.
And she's in the audience here too, if you have any questions.
Yeah, very knowledgeable, she's very nice. She knows her stuff, but I just feel like she's too much for our board. She's too expensive. I'm sorry.
Charging. What is she charging?
Hmm,
Do you know?
I want to say it was something like about 250 an
An
hour.
hour, right? 250 an hour.
Absolutely not.
So maybe we should open up item 11.3 as well, since it's, the board wants to get to that point. I think that's fair, if that's all right with
Yes.
you, Madam Chair.
Yes.
Right, so, yeah, we did meet. I reached out to the executive director of, Kings,
Sierra Kings.
Sierra Kings, thank you. Sierra Kings Healthcare District. I didn't hit her up for money for the social worker, my bad, I'm kidding. But I got some recommendations, and then in the course of the due diligence, I came across Corrine Campos and Associates and had the pleasure of meeting Corrine on the phone and via some emails, and then invited her to meet with the Executive Director Recruitment Committee, composed of your chair and Secretary Avalos. And we met and had I thought, a productive meeting. And as Corrine was preparing her proposal, I brought to her attention some concern about that hourly rate.
Mhm.
And so what she has done to basically level the playing field is she asked what my monthly rate was, and I'm approved at $3,200 a month. And she then has revised her proposal to not exceed $3,200 a month. So that's consistent with the budget. One of the challenges that Ms. Campos has, and I'll let her speak for herself on this part, but I just wanted to bring to the board's attention that this is a public agency and she doesn't necessarily have the public agency experience that your current executive director does. And when I posed this question to her, I thought I got a very well reasoned answer. And she also had done research on the health and safety code, gone to our website, done some research on the California Association of Healthcare Districts. So it seemed to me that any lack of direct experience she would be able to address that by her resourcefulness. And so when I was preparing this report, I did so in full confidence that Ms. Campos would be an excellent candidate, but it's clearly going to be up to this board to decide how to replace me. I didn't leave big shoes to fill. I've only been here less than a year, but I think that the board has appreciated receiving reports, receiving analysis, and your executive director being able to take some of the workload off to prepare an administrative record. So with that, I conclude my report. Her CV and proposal, or actually the scope of services, we're in the midst of discussing the format of the agreement between council and Ms. Campos, but
If I could just address that
Sure.
quickly, and Ms. Campos is here and can speak to it, but the agreement that Ms. Campos provided was not quite consistent with the agreements we've done in the past, so I kind of took it and created a new one, and it's very, very similar to Dave's agreement, and just today, I believe, and I won't speak for Ms. Campos, but I believe it's acceptable to her, assuming it's acceptable to the board.
Can I comment?
Mm-hmm.
All right, I feel that we need to possibly go to closed session to see if that's the direction we want to continue with this position. As you're aware, once we put our budget together, you're aware we can't afford you. If we couldn't afford you then, we can't afford that now. That's my feeling on it. So whether we go with, not an executive director, but more of a like executive admin, possibly a different route. That's why I'm thinking maybe we can go to closed session and just discuss.
We can't go into closed session without it being on the agenda, and unfortunately it's not, but I shudder to say this because we had we tried to schedule a special meeting and it was difficult, but we could do that, or we could have a closed session, then an open session during the November board meeting, because, yeah, just unfortunately the Brown Act, you just can't add it.
We'll be missing another member, correct, in November? Here, Texas?
Date is that?
So is it the desire of the board to send out dates to reschedule that November meeting, or the regular meeting, or just the special meeting? 'Cause I
Special
was under
meeting.
the impression it was just the
It's
special.
a special meeting.
Okay.
So at the special can we table this and discuss this also at the special meeting?
Yes, you can. The only thing you can't do at a special meeting is you can't add items to the agenda because there's new in it to the legal standard,
Okay,
but you certainly can discuss it at a special meeting.
Yeah.
That's not a problem.
I would like to do that. So we'll table it and then
But-
we'll do it at the special meeting.
Again, that's my preference. I don't know if everybody's in.
I'm
agreement
fine with that. I'm fine with that. Sorry.
Is there, is it appropriate for,
Yeah, absolutely. We're in a public item, yeah.
you might open it up for public
Okay,
comment.
yeah, I'm opening it up for public comment. That's your cue, ma'am.
Okay, so I push this button. Oh, it's on. Okay, first, I just want to thank the board and thank you to our chair and our secretary. I appreciated getting to meet you. I just want to state for the record, I have zero interest in stretching any special district beyond the means of their budget. And so my understanding is that tonight there was consideration to enter some discussion about costs. And so I'd be open to that, but also, you know, I appreciate everybody's time and I look forward to further conversation and possibly even referral of an executive admin if that's the route that the board goes. You have my resume and my credentials, so I won't comment on that, but I just wanted to say thank you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
So do I make a motion?
Again, no need for a motion, but if for the meeting, the special meeting, whenever that
Yeah,
happens.
so we're gonna go ahead and table this and we're gonna move forward with discussion at the special meeting after you send out the Survey Monkey and we decide on a date. Okay.
So wait, to clarify, so for that meeting, we put it as an action item for a closed session?
Yes, so you can absolutely place at that meeting an item for closed session. You could also follow it up with an open session item for action if you choose to do so at that meeting as well.
Both.
Yeah, we'll do both. You're gonna be at the meeting too, right?
Assuming I can be.
Yeah, okay, yes. So make sure you include everybody in that Survey Monkey because we want to make sure that everybody's able to meet.
And to clarify, we're looking at a special meeting because member Gallardo would be out of the state.
No, we're doing the special meeting because we're going to discuss your recommendations for fine tuning everything and getting,
The financial policy.
right.
And then the discussion in executive session.
Right.
Okay, about the
And then we'll
position.
have an open session to,
Take action if
take,
necessary.
yeah, take action.
But again, just to clarify, because I think there's some confusion.
Okay.
The next regular meeting is on November 19th.
Right.
Sounds like Director Giardo may or may not be in town for that meeting. So if it's the board's desire to change that meeting, you certainly can do that as well. It's totally your call and you have the discretion.
Are you guys gonna be at the November 19th meeting?
I
Okay,
know we're going to Texas.
okay,
Dates.
Okay.
okay, just
Well,
let us know.
I'm sorry, I'm up in
Diane.
the air. My mother-in-law's. All depends on her.
Okay, so, go ahead and do your Survey Monkey, and we might have to change our November 19th, date. So we're gonna have two meetings. One's a special meeting, and then one's a regular meeting. Okay. Sorry. Okay, so moving forward, 12, Executive Director comments and announcements.
I think I said everything I need to say. Thank you very
Okay.
much.
Board member comments and announcements. Lorraine, you have anything?
No, not at this time.
No.
No? You?
No comment.
I have a comment. Debbie was gracious enough to set up some meetings so we can go ahead and just announce who we are, talk about grants and reaching out to the community. I met, I met with two, right? Very responsive, didn't even know we existed. I said, Kiwanis, and Methodist Church. Yeah, so they were very interested in what we had to say. We handed out information. So that if they ever wanted to, anybody wanted to submit a grant, they knew what the procedures were, and we discussed what the definition of the health board was. So we were very informative to them, and they were happy that to meet somebody from the health board. And I want to thank Debbie for doing that. It took a lot of time, and she even went to one of the meetings with me and was gracious enough to support me. So
Were
the-
any citizens told they couldn't come and get any money from this board when
No.
you were at these meetings?
No.
Okay.
Mm-mm. Not at all. We did have somebody from one of the groups ask if we could pay for their air conditioner. I said it's not a health issue. So they understood. They were just looking for some help.
Not a health issue?
Not replacing the air conditioner.
Well, at least
That is-
helping a little because.
that is
it
the
hot,
landlord.
Because the heat,
Yeah, but
they need a cooling place.
yeah,
What are you gonna do with a senior that has none? You gotta do something. It does state there, it does state health. Anything that
we were very
pertains to health.
specific. We have a definition of what is considered health and who, if you read what we restructured, it had a definition of what is considered health.
Health, yes.
Mhm. And it's not replacing an air conditioner.
We'll get that
Okay,
addressed.
so if they
Yeah.
die because of heat, there's no air conditioner,
Because things.
then they
I mean,
die.
That if, it's one thing, I get it, everybody has their own opinion. I
Right.
respect
Saying
that.
for a home, but I'm
If you don't
saying
live in
for.
Selma, you don't know what Selma needs, okay?
I live
If you
in
don't,
Selma.
okay, and I do
Yeah.
too. So this money is for taxpayer money for the citizens in the community of Selma and the district zone that we fall in. That's it. That's what it's for.
Right.
So you may, your definition of healthcare, he may have, I respect all that.
Yeah.
But as we all know, a board who sits here, we're sitting here as 5. Things can be changed and if it will, and if it doesn't, it doesn't. For
Right.
me, every resident, every citizen that pays taxes here has a right to come up and
They have
ask.
a right to come up.
and be heard.
They do,
And
absolutely.
they should not be told, no, that's just me. I'm just speaking on for myself, because I'm my own entity. You don't speak for me on this board. So again, I respect everybody's opinion, but at the end of the day, I believe, this is just what I believe, lots of things fall under healthcare, under us, and we need to do what's best for our Selma residents, our citizens in this town, because people who don't live in this town don't know what Selma needs. And that's how I feel. So,
That's great, and I thank you, but if you read our,
things can be
what was our-
changed.
yes, they
is all
can.
I'm saying.
They can, but if we look under our mission and what the
I
bylaw.
barely received that
I
paperwork
read the
over this
bylaws.
weekend.
No.
Reading it.
It's,
It
no, we went,
says-
yeah, we went through it and
Yeah.
we said what was considered healthcare and what we'd give grants for. And everybody agreed on that.
Not
Well, we
everybody.
all passed it.
Because you had the votes.
Well,
Okay, that's fine.
so anyways, everybody is open, this board is open to anybody coming requesting grants. And we'll just leave it to the board, who's gonna get the grants and who's not.
Well, you just listen to them.
Right,
At least listen to
right.
them.
And I did listen. Everybody is welcome to come to the board, everybody.
Listen
Not
to
being
them.
told-
It doesn't necessarily mean we're gonna grant every single little thing, but we will hear them out.
We can hear them, absolutely.
Right.
Anybody else have anything? Do we have a motion? Does the audience have anything? Okay, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Adjourn.
We have Leticia makes a motion to adjourn. Do we have a second?
I second.
Lorraine second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed to adjourn at 7:36. Thank you. And then go ahead and send that out, please, so we can hurry up and